Nikki. Oh, let me just tilt you down a little. There we go. Now we're in business. I want to get you in the whole bed with me because I'm doing the show for my bed in the summer right now because, well, I should be using the Nikki throne, but it is just too hot in the back room. And you guys, I'm 4'10". I cannot be lifting that thing over my head. I tried. It didn't work out well. It didn't. Yeah. Story of my life. What can you do? It's hard down here. It's hard down here at 4'10", but I wonder how tall John Brotherton is. Let's ask him. I'm so excited to chat with John. John is an incredible actor, and I'm a big fan of his. I was just watching a clip of him in Fast and the Furious 7. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. Let's go. Hi.
Hi, Nikki, what's happening?
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. Where are you?
I am in Hollywood, California, right in the
Nice.
center of it all. Yeah, right in Los Angeles.
I just started binging that on Netflix, Hollywood.
Oh, I know. I have not yet, but
I gotta do it.
is it good?
Yes.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
I started it. I started watching it with the perfect person because they're into it. It's amazing. And us being actors, like I feel like it just reaches me on a whole other level. Maybe
Of
a
course.
same, thing. I don't know.
Now, where are you at?
I am in New York, Long
Okay.
Island.
Okay, awesome.
I'm supposed to be in LA. I was literally, my flight was leaving Saturday. Sitting in my backyard yesterday writing my book, and I got a phone call. Your flight has been canceled.
No way, really? Because of everything that's going on?
Correct.
Oh, that's really interesting because we're supposed to fly out towards the end of the month, and we were wondering if we were going to be affected. So,
But it was weird though, because a friend of mine who's a hairstylist in California, he was like, "Well, our friend just flew in today from New York here, and it was fine." But then my friend who I was going to visit out there said, "Yeah, no, I've heard the flights are being canceled." I don't know.
what airline, if you don't mind me asking?
I think it was American. It was American.
Man, that's crazy. So, and it was pretty last minute.
Yeah, well, I booked the trip last week, and here we are. They
Yeah,
called me
wow.
yesterday, and I had actually, it was very strange because I sat down with my parents. They're both in their early 60s, and I wanted to be respectful. And I was like, "Look, you guys are the ones that are really at risk." I said, "I don't want to risk bringing anything home. Maybe I'll postpone the trip." And then 20 minutes later, hello.
Wow. Some kind of wow. Yeah.
Maybe it's meant to be. Who knows?
What crazy times we are in.
Yes. Well, I was just on, the YouTube because I call it the YouTube because I'm over 30.
Of
Um,
course.
so I was on the YouTube and I was, John Brotherton, and
Uh-huh.
Fast and Furious 7. Oh my
Yes. Yeah. That was uh, one of the most. I mean, honestly, to sum it up into a single emotion, because it was a roller coaster of emotions, obviously with some of the highest highs, and then there was, the tragedy involved, and it was so much. It was a big, very big part of my life.
my gosh. I was watching it and I was like, it reminded me, of like some of those experiences where, I mean, tell me if you've had this, where you're acting with these people on camera, like you are with Kurt Russell. And
I've told everyone since I've worked on that movie, and anyone that, I swear, I went back to my college this last year. They had me come back and hang out with the acting department and stuff. And I found myself just telling Kurt Russell stories. It was like,
what college did you go to?
Oregon State, in Corvallis, Oregon. I'm a Beaver and damn proud. That's our,
Beaver it up.
we say damn because that's that's the Beaver Dam. So I laugh though, because I found myself just telling Kurt Russell stories. He was the
Why not
coolest,
though?
the most amazing. He was everything that he was like, not even an ounce of a letdown. He was everything you want him to be, and so cool and just so kind and generous and honest. And he asked you questions, which is something that I always found to be really cool.
Yeah.
And he talked to anybody on set, which is also another amazing quality. So yeah, I mean, the whole experience was pretty amazing. I got to work with some amazing people, him and and Paul at the top of that list, which was I mean,
it was very strange. I'll tell you what was happening today. I always play my Spotify like 24/7. And I was sitting here and I start hearing, "It's been a long day."
uh,
And that was it. That was it, John. That was
uh,
it. Because it makes me think of, people that of course. And
well,
I mean, I was filming an ABC Family show out in California, and that was I took that road in Santa Clarita every day. So,
I know. Yes.
I mean, but what an amazing actor and a brilliant human being. I was watching a documentary with his father, and
Yeah.
and I was just so moved by his story. He gave so much to charity and did so much for humanity.
He was, he was just awesome. Everything, his energy was so cool on set. I worked on that set for about 7 weeks,
Yeah.
and so I just got to know him it starts with small talk. We have daughters in common, and that was really the thing that we talked about, which was so cool because that's just so normal and real.
Yeah.
I was a new dad at the time. His daughter had just turned 16. And so we were these that was our first common bond, which was really cool. He was the first one to really like welcome me on set in a way that was just so kind of earnest and like buddy like versus just like, he like, took the work edge off of it. In other words, really what it was is a memory that I'll never forget, because you got to imagine that set is packed with everything. And my first day was the entire cast. So it was an ensemble scene. So everyone's there. I mean, everybody, and including Kurt, and, so it was like this massive day. And I was just sort of like, happy to be there and trying to, stay out of the way. And he was the first one to I was walking to Crafty and he walked by. He didn't even say anything. He just gave me like a high five on the way, like you would your buddy in high school walking to gym class. Like, it was so normal and casual and honest. And it was a moment that I will never forget, because I was like, I'm where I'm supposed to be. And like, he just immediately, and that just kind of sums up, I think, his spirit. I thought something really cool about him is he surrounded himself with like his childhood friends. Like he was obviously super loyal to the people around him. His stunt double was one of his best friends from I think they were literally elementary school friends. And he took, and that's just, yeah. And his family's amazing. His brothers are just awesome human beings. And his charity is something I still support. That is really awesome, does awesome things. So yeah. So there was a lot to take from that movie.
Yeah, I mean, well, thank you for sharing that. And he's just one of those actors. I mean, we unfortunately just lost Jerry Stiller. And I remember when I got the news, I was literally sitting, in the kitchen, and the tears, done, but we're blessed that we get to have these movies, that we got to work with these incredible people with.
I know, because they almost feel like they're not like, it's not supposed to happen. It doesn't happen they're like superheroes, so sometimes that's, so now we just can honor them. And that was, was for the remainder of the film, the sort of battle cry from set was for Paul. Every day, long days, whatever it was always like, all right, for Paul, roll sound, so, everyone wanted to do.
He's proud of you, kid. Are you kidding?
Well, everyone wanted to, I think, do what they could to honor him. Yeah. However that was, whatever their job was on that set, it was, we got to do what we got to do to honor him the most we can. So it was cool.
And speaking of another amazing set, though, Fuller House. Oh my gosh, though, John, I grew up with Full House.
Man, it was a really. What a blessing! What an amazing blessing.
What's the audition process like? How did that?
Here's the craziest part about it, because it just shows. I guess there's a lot of lessons that you learn along the way, but one being, you audition for a million things and you get so close. You get closer more than you get it, right? You have like more second place trophies than you do. Right? Like, but the second place trophies don't pay.
Right.
So you go, you have all this, and usually like the audition process is you audition and you have some sort of version of a callback, or it's either a producer session or a test or a screen test. And it's a long drawn out process and you get pinned and all this. Well, this came along.
Well, it's been recording now. So the laptop shut down. So let's bring John back in. Hello. I'm so sorry. The laptop went.
All good.
And I was like, no, I can't tell you the technical difficulties. I mean, there have been FaceTimes. The lights have gone out. There's an episode called "The Light Baby When the Lights Go Out." I mean, the dog's always barking. I apologize, but the good news is we have the interview, so we'll piece it together. So,
awesome. No problem. In fact, I was on earlier today. We were doing this whole like newlywed game thing with the cast.
Yeah.
And mine was the internet spectrum. Our whole neighborhood decided to go out. The internet went out in the middle of it. And I was the guy that had to everyone had to wait on and reboot and come back in the room. I was like, but anyways.
The host of Nikki Nights is perpetually late to the Nikki Night show, John. I don't know how it happens every day.
That's a fun, roll in,
But speaking of fun, Fuller House.
Yes. No, it was so... What I was saying, because you asked that audition process was like, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, like I was saying, most things you audition for and then you get pinned and it's just long drawn out and then you're maybe, you get fingers crossed and you're telling, you don't want to tell people, but you want to tell people. And it's like that whole weird thing. This was something, so this is actually right before, Fuller House hadn't come out yet because it was first season. So it was still a big question mark. Are they crazy for doing this? And they were the first to do the reboot in this way with the original cast. Not like a Hawaii Five-0 that remakes the show, but
correct.
Oh, we're bringing the cast back, and and they were really the first ones to do it. So it was this question mark kind of out there in the universe. And I get a call one day randomly from my agent saying, "Okay, so this is going to sound kind of strange, but you remember this Full House?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they were like, "Well, so did you hear they're bringing it back?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did. I think I heard something like that." And he said, "Okay, so they want you to play, you've been offered this part to play, you remember DJ?" And I'm like, "Yeah, oh yeah, of course." And, to play her temporary boyfriend for a few episodes to guest star, but they're offering it for you, and then that conversation goes from there.
Yeah.
And so to kind of circle back on your question, there was no audition process. And it was this sort of massive blessing that just sort of fell into my lap. Started as, like I said, a little arc as a guest star, and then turned into the most amazing job I've ever had in my whole life, with the most amazing people that I've ever, it was just it was crazy. And it came with such ease, which nothing ever comes with ease. Yeah. And so there was some lesson there about hope and dreaming and the whole thing, and keeping your just eye on the prize and working hard and just, trying to be good and do good and things like that. It was great. It was just, so it turned in, it went from an arc to then into the second season. They asked, to hang around as a regular. And of course I wouldn't, it was just the most amazing 5 years. For so many reasons, the people, the kind of show, the fact that it just brings so much joy to people, the common thread when I meet someone on the street who knows the show or loves it, it's just that they always are smiling and it's always the same. I watched it when I was a kid and now I watch it with my kids.
Yes. It was that show in high school. When I was a kid, elementary. When you would hear "Everywhere You Look," yeah. Come on, you're instantly happy. And when I went to San Francisco, the first thing I made Adam Shankman, our director from Hairspray, he was like, "What do you want to do?" I said, "What do you mean? What do I want to do in San Francisco? What else would I want to do?
Yeah.
I want to go see where Uncle Jesse and DJ lived." He was like, "All right,
Apparently, and I don't know which, book this comes out of, but it's behind Alcatraz. It's the second most visited tourist site in
sure.
in fact, our creator, it's no secret. While we were, I think it was like second season, he purchased the house there. And so we got to go up there for the release of second season. I believe we had the premiere up there at the house. We had like a whole kind of private party inside the house. And we had a wonderful ceremony, like handprint deal. And it was just, what an incredible, it was surreal. It was totally surreal. Now, of course, the house looks, it's a very different feel than, what you see on the show, but it was just, what a cool, neat deal to be able to walk in that front door for real,
Oh my gosh. And that red front door.
It was wild. Totally wild.
Gotta be. That's like when we went to the Baltimore premiere of Hairspray. And
right.
You start seeing all the buildings because we were in Toronto filming, but they took the entire city of Toronto and made it Baltimore. So
wow.
It was brilliant. They rerouted cars, like train cars. They rerouted everything.
No way. That's incredible.
There was something called Dundas, and it was like a triangle kind of, and they rerouted all the streetcars and the cables and everything and made it look like 1960s cars. Every store was resurfaced with like T-Birds out in front of it and Cadillac. It was amazing. But then to go to Baltimore and to see those like old stucco buildings, with like that, those bricks, and you just quintessential Baltimore house.
Yeah.
I was just waiting for John to open the door. I was, it was really cool.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Those are the experiences that we get to go.
Yeah.
Holy cow. I can't believe we do what we do, very blessed.
What's been one of the most amazing places you've gotten to travel to for acting?
Oh man. There's just two that come to mind. One is during Furious 7 filming, we spent 2 weeks in Abu Dhabi, which was just unbelievably cool, especially because, we were taken very good care of, obviously, by both production and the host, country. They were very excited to have us there. And just an incredible experience to be submerged in that culture for 2 weeks. It's a country that's relatively new. It's only 60 years. I forget. You can't quote me on that, but it was like somewhere in the middle 20th century. And so that was an incredible, incredible experience. And then for Fuller House, we spent 2 weeks in Tokyo, which was absolutely what an amazing time with just such cool people. So different from here, but there's so much that like I took from it and I learned from it and fell in love with. It was almost tough in the beginning because it goes at such a different speed than we do. Yes. And I had to like adjust my whole inner sort of calibration. And then once you fall into their rhythm, I just really enjoyed myself there. And my wife got to come with me to both of them, which was really special. It made it because we have kids, so it was like vacation as well as work.
Well, that's incredible. That's been one of my favorite things too, is like getting to bring my family on these adventures with me. Like, I think our first international trip together was like London for the premiere of Hairspray,
Awesome. Yeah.
So it's those experiences, but Tokyo for me was one that I really loved as well.
Because it's just so different, right?
Different. I remember sitting down and having a cucumber roll and being served a jar of Hellman's mayonnaise, and I was like, "This is amazing." It's little things like that. Totally.
Yeah, man, it was, very special, very, very special. Something I'll never forget.
And
this is a crazy story. We shot in Shibuya Crossing, which is like their Times Square. It's the busiest intersection in the world. It has more, whatever the stat is.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And we were so nervous, as you would be, to shoot in that environment with that many people. Like if you were in New York City, the chaos that you create.
Yeah.
They have such a different energy, and there was such a respect that happened so immediately that they all we had to actually tell normal people to go back to being, everyone stood back and stopped and was pausing their lives in a giant circle but work because all of a sudden we're supposed to be in the chaos. Like everyone's got to get back to the action. So it was just really beautiful. The energy was just always so welcoming and peaceful.
I found Tokyo to be very peaceful as well. I found it very we spent a lot of time obviously in like the hubbub, all the busy places, but we also did a little bit of like the outskirts and we got to see some of the more quiet areas and it was so nice. But one of my favorite stories is and this I think just speaks volumes of the people of Tokyo. I was not feeling well, and Zach was getting ready to leave, and he was like, "Hey, come say goodbye to me in the lobby." And I woke up. I was like, "I don't feel good. My throat. It was just miserable. I don't know what happened." And so I called up room service. I said, "Can I get a peanut butter and jelly and a cup of tea?" So she brings it up, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, what's wrong?" And I was like, "I'm sick. I don't feel good." She went down, had the chef make me some elixir. I still to this day don't know what it was in it. It was this yellow broth. She brought it up in a cup. She said, "Drink this. It will make you feel better." The chef made it for you.
Oh
I,
man.
okay. I was like,
A
all
lot
right.
of trust. A lot of trust.
A lot of
Yeah.
trust. Probably looking back now, not my smartest decision.
Hey, but that's the energy
Could have
there.
gone so left, John.
Yeah.
But I went with it. Can I tell you? Like that. I
Amazing.
fell asleep, woke up. I was like, I'm not kidding. I was better.
That's amazing. I love it. Oh, that's
But
great.
here, people aren't so inclined to go out of their way sometimes to go and have the chef make you an elixir so
Yeah.
you feel better for your flight. So
Oh man.
I
No,
really
totally.
appreciated it.
Especially, I think it's the most populated city in the world, yet it was like totally pristine and clean and,
Yeah.
just very cool. Very,
Yeah.
very cool. I can't
Well,
wait to go back.
I have to ask you because this is always a question that because my mentors mean so much to me. Who was a
Yeah.
mentor to you growing up that kind of got you into acting?
Well, certainly my mom. I mean, my mom was my biggest influence when I was growing up. And it was funny because I was a pretty serious kid, but my mom was like, she was always, she's an artist. And so film and TV, especially film, was a huge part of our house. I had a single mom. And so that was kind of our main conversation, really. That's what we talked about at the dinner table. I grew up with, we were breaking down films. She was taking me to the art house when I was like an elementary kid. We weren't seeing crazy blockbusters. We were seeing like, interesting art movies and really breaking it. Like the Oscars in our house was like the Super Bowl. It was like a really big deal.
Yeah.
And so there was just a natural love for it. And, I thought everyone talked about directing and costume and casting at like that young age, but wasn't necessarily the case.
Tender age of 8.
Yeah, exactly. So then she asked if I wanted to do this drama camp that she had found out about when I was like 10, run by someone that we knew and really liked. And so, yeah, I started going to drama camp over the summer where I just totally fell in love with it. But it was funny. It was always just a hobby. It wasn't something that I was like, oh, I'm going to do this forever. It was like, in fact, I was very like kind of serious kid. Like sports was a really big deal to me. School was a big deal to me.
Yeah, sports were big for me too, believe it or not. People don't know I played 9 years of competitive softball and
that's rad.
I loved it. I was the catcher of the team. I thought, it was just the greatest thing and I had a blast and my friends and I would play but I mean at one point I was involved in like the school league and then 2 other leagues and it got so much plus acting on top of it and working a part-time job, my head went forget it.
Totally.
And I had to make the decision acting or sports and it was no question in my mind.
Yeah, it's funny because in high school I totally stopped acting for a few years because I went the other way. I was like, okay, that's a love of mine. I grew up with it, but this is, I was all about like, playing sports and school and whatnot. And it wasn't until college when I sort of just like revisited it and started taking it as like my elective classes. I would be like, go. And I was a business student. I was in a fraternity. So the theater department was a very different world, which is what I loved. I loved the whole hybrid of, I loved the intersection of those worlds.
Well, this is how my brain worked. I was like, if I can't play softball, then maybe they'll just do a remake of A League of Their Own.
Yeah, totally. What a great movie too.
This is what I think.
That movie was awesome.
Yes.
I just saw it like on Q somewhere the other day, and I was like, man, that movie was awesome.
It was. It was kind of revolutionary for women.
Yeah, it was, and you know, like Gina Davis, because I was thinking of like mentors and stuff. In my brain, I just saw some of my first favorite movies, and Thelma and Louise is like something that was like one of the first ones that sort of changed me because I was young. But yeah, just incredible actress, and what a great movie, both of those movies.
Yeah. I mean, those are the movies. I look at those movies and I also think of, other movies that I grew up with. Like, remember The Titans was a favorite of mine. These are the 10 Things I Hate About You. These are the movies. But I also then go back to, my favorite of all time is Girl Interrupted.
Okay. I haven't seen Girl Interrupted, actually.
John, please. I am begging you. Actually, the book, I've read the book and I've seen the movie. It's Angelina Jolie, Brittany Murphy, Winona Ryder, Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, Angelina, she won for that, right?
She did.
Yeah.
She's everything to me. I swear, I love her.
Awesome.
Who's your favorite people that you've gotten to meet or work with being in this industry?
I'm going to go back to Kurt Russell. That was obviously, he's right at the top. The director on those films, James Wan, is amazing. He did The Conjuring and Furious 7. And then I've just, doing TV, I've got to randomly work with and like doing guest stars on shows. I've got to randomly, like I worked with Ted Danson on CSI once.
Oh, that is so cool.
To spend a day on set with him, man, he was like so like cool dude in a loose mood, man. Like he was like just like dancing around set. He was like awesome, just awesome.
Well, that's like, I had a guest star on Smash and I was so excited, right? Kat McPhee, Megan Hilty. And then I'm like, wait a second, Deborah Messing, my gosh.
Right. Totally.
But then it was time for, the mother lode of all, and Angelica Houston.
Oh, wow.
And I at one point, John, I was sitting at a casting table and it was the most surreal moment in my career because the episode was a casting. So now I'm sitting behind the casting table.
Right.
Weird. Deborah Messing is to my left and Angelica Houston is sitting to my right. And I'm like,
oh, man. Those are the moments, right?
Happening? I don't understand what's going on. But for me, Will and Grace was one of my favorite movies. And TV shows. And actually, New Line Cinema knew I was so obsessed that when we did Hairspray, they sent me the DVD box.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's all that played in my trailer. You would hear the theme song. It drove the PAs nuts.
Well, how fun you got to work with her then. Very cool.
It was very cool. Who's somebody that you would love to work with? Who's an idol of yours that you would love to work with? Oh, man. There's so many. I just growing up watching, I've always been, I know he's probably, everyone would say it, but like watching Tom Hanks's career from, doing sitcoms like in the 80s to like the level of what he's done with his craft and just kind of like the energy he brings. I just, obviously, those are the ones that I just love. Right before this quarantine happened, we were at a Cirque du Soleil, and I spotted, and Dustin Hoffman was there. And growing up, Rain Man was such a giant film, and it was another one of my childhood because it affected me emotionally. And I was like, wait a minute, these films are actually changing the tears in my eyes. And he was like, that performance early on was something that I was like, oh, that's what acting is all about. Like this dude is like doing something special. And so spotting him at the Cirque du Soleil was like really a cool moment. I fanned out a little bit on that. But the list just goes on and on. In someone who I just, he's not with us, but Heath Ledger was someone who I just studied his work and he's like a Leo, like Leo's the same way. I just have studied their, I just study it. They just blow me away. He's personally my favorite actor of that generation of like that, like late 90s, early 2000s, going from the 10 Things I Hate About You all the way to the Joker. He was just a classic. He was an actor's actor. He took everything so seriously. And I respect actors like that because this is a craft. And, people sometimes think that we just memorize lines off a piece of paper, and it's not that. I mean, I personally know that after I get off set, I go home and I take all of my lines and I rewrite them 15 times so that it's muscle memory at that point.
I have a similar technique. It's funny you say that. I
Yeah,
call it
but
my.
I won't go to bed until it's done.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I totally hear you. Yeah, he was, it's funny. I was talking, my last project I worked on, I wrapped a film earlier this year, right before quarantine, with Shannon Sossaman, who was opposite him in The Knight's Tale. And we were talking, she was just obviously gushing about him, how wonderful he is. But like, it's a perfect example of a film that could have gone terribly wrong, right? Like, it could have just been a movie that no one ever saw, and that because it was just a kind of a disaster. But he is so compelling and so electric that he brings a film like that to life, and you're totally in it. It's like kind of a comedy, kind of an action, kind of a rom-com. Like it's all he was able to pull it all off into this, yeah, he was just someone. And then you see him in a film like Candy. I don't know if you've seen it. It was an Australian indie plays a heroin addict, and he was like amazing. So I mean, the range, and then all the way to obviously the Joker and stuff, where you're like, oh.
And then on top of it, he was a great dad, and then you also, when I think of great dads, I mean, you mentioned being a dad, and I have to ask you, because I like to ask my guests this because I don't have kids, but it's something I often think about. Would I maybe let my kids get into this business? Would I be okay with it? How do you feel about that?
It's really interesting because another cool sort of side benefit of Fuller House was it was a very family friendly environment by nature. I mean, it's a family show. Everyone on the show was parents, so everyone had kids. It was up the street from me. It's 15 minutes away. So my kids got to spend a lot of time, and there's kid actors on the show, so they got to spend a lot of time around set, became friends with other kid actors, that kind of thing. So I have always taken the stance, it's nothing that I want to push on them, but because I don't need to, it's in such proximity to them that if they're attracted to it, it's like we don't have to move here from Kansas to like try a pilot season, right? We can like, if either of my daughters organically want to pursue it, there's availability, we can do that. It's like kind of the benefit of living in this town and having been around it. And if not, like, it is nothing I want to push on them. I love all the child actors I've worked with, but they work incredibly hard. And when everyone takes a break, they go to school on set. People, like, a child actor works incredibly hard. And so, but it's funny because they get the right kids to do it. It's because all these kids are brilliant and they're
such pros.
They're such pros. They need to be super busy. They're that kind of kid. Yes. It all works out, but it is a situation that you're like, you don't envy it because of how, everyone looks, oh, they're a star on a television show, but man, they are working their butts off.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I know our average day on Hairspray was my average day was 18 hours. And then I would watch, Taylor Parks, who played Little Inez. She would come and be dancing with me 1 minute, and all of her, and then she'd be in school, and I was just like, I gave her all the credit in the world.
And they'd memorize everybody's lines, like,
yes,
like they know your lines, their lines, like, I mean, it's like totally.
Well, I love that. I think acting is such a personal journey, and it's one of those careers that, if you have it inside of you, I've always just had this, I don't know. Recently, something's been going on. I don't know what it is. There's, when everybody was saying Mercury was shifting or whatever that was going on, when brooms were standing vertically. Do you remember this?
No, but.
Oh, gosh. So Mercury's rising. Something was Mercury. I don't remember. Mercury was in some house, whatever. It was throwing the world on a kilter. That's what it was saying. Right. And there was one point where people were taking brooms, and there was something with the gravity where it's making brooms stand up.
Yes. Okay.
So I don't know why we're going with this, but anyway, that was supposed to be like the weird time that was throwing everybody off or aligning everybody. I was just like, what? I don't know. Now with the quarantine, I'm more like in touch with myself and what's going on than ever. Have you found this? Have you had like a decent quarantine? Like,
do you live by yourself?
Nope. Sometimes I wish I did though.
Are you married?
Nope. No, I have a no, I have a mother and a brother and a father. And I love them dearly. We're the best of friends. Like they're everything to me. But sometimes, you crave that space. So I spend a lot of time in the backyard. I've been out there like doing my prison workouts,
There
you
you go.
know, putting
Well,
up
that's
my
sort of what I was.
cat dolls.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was getting at. So, we have four under our roof, and it's been in some ways amazing because I know I'm going to look back and I'm like, look how much time I got with my kids. But on the other hand, like homeschool was rough. And I mean, it was rough on everybody because everyone's just sort of like trying to adjust all of a sudden and like, somehow provide an education for your children and a normal childhood at the same time. And, it
You
was
and your wife kind of volley the
totally, yeah, depending on what, we had to do. And, but, and then just keeping them on track was like, it's nearly impossible. And then after a while, they're just like, okay, let's wrap this up. They don't care. I mean, what's the incentive after a while? They're kids.
Of course. And then, it's finding you're like, oh my gosh, well, lunch and recess occupied them in school. Now they have to have lunch and recess here.
Totally.
Like, what was, you guys do a lot of like outdoor stuff, some outings and
Yeah,
stuff?
we played basketball. We live on a cul-de-sac, so there was a lot of like street basketball. My wife keeps a pretty awesome garden in the backyard, so they spent a lot of time doing that. We have sort of our garage is like a converted playroom with like video games, so that's sort of like the getaway wing.
Right.
And so, there's that kind of stuff going on.
Yeah, you have to like build yourself a little, like what I've been doing is every day, and sometimes it's at the most ridiculous time of dawn, but I'll get up, grab my laptop, bring everything outside, and just for some reason, keeping it moving just helps me.
Sure. No, 100%. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's been great, but it's also been a trying experience, and it's been a little bit of everything. So,
Well, I think people who are not quarantining alone, who have families,
yeah,
are learning more about each other than ever.
totally. 100%. Yes.
Yeah. I've never learned so much about my mother's love of Chobani yogurt in all of my life. I didn't realize, I believe it might be now an issue. Like, I swear, that's all she wants in life, but nothing else. She doesn't need filet mignon, just Chobani yogurt. But, and our fridge broke, so my cardio is going up and down daily to get them from the fridge downstairs.
Uh-huh.
But, in the quarantine, you learn about the things that mean things to people.
Oh,
And,
man.
and if it's just a little gesture, so much of getting my mom, her yogurt, or somebody getting a cup of ice or whatever it is, these things mean the world to people. And why not help people out and make their day,
Yeah. And that who you're stuck with, that's your team. You know what I'm saying?
My
So,
gosh, this is right. I
yep.
don't even know what the team's name is, but my gosh.
No, I try to remind my kids that like sometimes it's easy to take advantage of the people that love you the most.
Yes.
And it's a hard lesson in life to learn because you don't want to learn it because it doesn't feel good when you learn it the wrong way. And so I'm trying to, that's a conversation I have with my kids all the time, but this is a perfect time that's going on.
Well, sometimes I was just talking to my friend the other day, and we were talking about, things in my life. And I said, I'm so glad. I said, all of you guys, my three core friends, I said, you guys were trying so hard, to open my eyes about certain things in my career and everything. I said, but I needed to see it for myself.
Of course, yeah.
And sometimes you do. And honestly, what it took for me was an Uber driver was like, wait a second, and I'm like, mm-hmm. And he's like, where'd you go? He's like, I need something. And that's all I needed to throw my ring right back in the fire. I was like,
Very cool.
So it's been really interesting.
Amen. Those are the moments.
Yes. Who knows? Magical things can happen in the back of Ubers, I guess. I don't know.
Hey, many have, I'm sure.
I don't want to know. But what I do want to know is, are there any upcoming projects or what's going on?
Well, the last project I worked on that I mentioned with Shannon Sossaman is a film called The Undertaker's Wife, and it's psychological thriller, which is exactly. I kind of wanted, coming off of Fuller House at the end of last year, and having a conversation with my, my people, was about like, let's try to find something that's totally opposite and shake it up. And, it's like going to the gym and just like, doing a whole new routine.
Yeah.
So that's what it was. It was awesome, great experience. And I feel very lucky to have worked this year, because a lot of productions didn't even get that opportunity. We wrapped, like, honestly, right before everything went down. Um, so that should, I don't know, when or what, they're in the post stage. We just wrapped that, gosh, a couple months ago. So, but that's what's next. And then, it's back to whatever comes after that.
Yes, I know. It's a time. I was supposed to start a production in August. We're praying, fingers crossed. Don't know, but as my dear uncle used to say, you got to take it one day at a time, kid.
Amen. Especially, I know, different perspective now.
Yes,
it's all good.
it is
We're all good.
Well, you're all good, Mr. Brotherton. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Totally, my pleasure.
Be well. My best to your family, and stay well.
Same to you. Peace. Thanks for having me.
Anytime.
All right. Take care.
Gosh, he's lovely. He's lovely. And I mean, it's got to be incredibly hard for him to talk about, everything that happened on this set of The Fast and the Furious. So thank you, John, for sharing that. I really appreciate it. He's just so insightful, and I loved when hearing about his kids, and he takes such pride in them and in his acting, and I can't wait to see The Undertaker's The Undertaker's wife. That's amazing. I love it. I love it. I love creepy shows. I love a good psychological thriller, and I love the acting of John Brotherton. So thank you so much, sir. You guys, I apologize for Sarah's got to fix this now. I'm so sorry, Sarah. It crapped out again. Ay, ay, ay. All of a sudden, guys, it just, take two. That's it. So here we go. Thank you so much for hanging in there with us while we hang out with you. I adore you guys. And thanks for another episode of Nikki Nights. And I'll see you tomorrow.